What's good, y'all? Welcome back. Game 4 of the Western Conference Finals just wrapped up, and we still do not have a team in the NBA Finals. The Warriors were not able to close out this game in Dallas. Very weird game, to say the least. Let's go all NBA teams to talk about, which is probably more of an exciting conversation than this game. So I'm going to talk about the game first, and then we'll talk about all NBA teams because, it's always an interesting discussion to see who made all NBA and who did not. But let's talk about Game 4, Western Conference Finals. Obviously, Dallas, playoff lives is on the line, down 3-0. No team has ever came back from a 3-0 deficit. I believe the record is 138-0 when teams are down 3-0, which is kind of crazy. So, there's a first time for everything, but I don't really think the Mavericks are going to be able to do it. But if they are going to be able to do it, the recipe that they had today is what's going to have to happen. They're going to have to hit the three-point shots. They're going to have to at least not get dominated in the rebound battle. It seems like they did a pretty good job on the board today. I'd be interested to see what the final numbers actually were. But I think they were winning the rebounding battle for a good portion of this game. They weren't turning the ball over, and they were able to limit the Splash Brothers, the trio, the triplets, whoever they are. Steph didn't really get off in this game, just from the eye test, it looking like it. Don't have the numbers pulled up in front of me. I'll probably pull them up in a second, but it didn't seem like Steph got off. Jordan Poole was a little inconsistent. He kind of got some buckets down the stretch in the fourth quarter, but he ended up fouling out. And Clay didn't really have a big game. He didn't have a big game. Kevon Looney did not dominate the boards like how he has been. I've been calling him Dennis Rodman for the last 3 weeks, but he hasn't dominated the board, so that was a pretty good recipe, man. Look, Steph only had 20. Clay had 12 on 10 shots, and Jordan Poole off the bench had 14. Really, the only reason why this game ended up being competitive was because the Mavericks let off of the gas pedal, and the reserves, I'm talking about the bench guys, like Kuminga, like Moses Moody, like Damian Lee, came in, Nemanja Bjelica came in and made this a game. I think they cut it down to 9 points at one time after the Mavs were up by 29 points. Almost an epic collapse. Could you imagine your season being ended after having basically a 30-point lead? Your season being ended because your reserves could not outplay or at least play even with the other team's reserves? Would have been an epic collapse, man. But they brought Luka back in. They brought Luka back in just in the nick of time, and they were able to close it out. It was funny watching it because this second unit, or this unit for the Warriors, which I believe was Kuminga, Jordan Poole, Moses Moody, Nemanja Bjelica, and Damian Lee. That 5-man unit was able to chip into the lead, and they were doing a very good job. They were hitting shots. They were in the zone that was working really well, and they cut into the lead. They cut 20 points off the lead. Then they brought Steph Curry back in. They slowly started bringing the starters back in. It started with Steph Curry, and he got a bucket put on him right away by Luka, almost instantly. And then a 3-point shot from Reggie Bullock, and the game was pretty much over from that point. They tried to bring Wiggins and Clay back in, but game was pretty much over. It was pretty much over, but like I said, what Dallas will have to do is just replicate this if they want to have any chance of making this somewhat of a series. But going back to the Bay, it's going to be very tough. It's not going to be easy. They haven't shown that they can win in Golden State, and the game where they played their best, they still ended up losing by about 10 points, which is just not a great sign at all. But maybe Coach Jason Kidd and them have figured something out, so maybe we'll get a competitive Game 5. Or maybe Golden State knows, hey, it's cool. They got this game. We're going to close it out in 5, which we see the Warriors do this a lot. They don't really sweep teams a lot. Even in KD Warriors kind of did sweep people. But they're notorious for not always just sweeping teams. They'll do it in gentleman style. And this was their worst game of the series by far. Not even just saying that. Game 1 wasn't pretty. But this game was a lot worse than them because they got dominated on the boards, or they didn't dominate the boards like they had been. And they were turning the ball over, just playing careless basketball, which you see that from the Warriors at times. And when their shots not falling, it's hard for them to make up for it. But maybe the second unit gives this team the spark that they need going into Game 5, because they just came out of halftime. And plus, man, Mark Cuban, bro, you are a billionaire. How do you have, for the second time in 2 months, your roof leaking? You are a billionaire. You are a billionaire. And this arena is 20 years old. It's not really that old. It's not like it's the what was it? The Metrodome in Minnesota that used to always cave in because of the snow. It's not that old, bro. It's not that old, man. Like, come on, Mark. Like, there was like a 20-minute delay coming out of halftime because the roof was leaking because it had been raining all day in Dallas, I guess. And they were saying on the broadcast, like, this is the second time that has happened this season, this year. It happened in March. And it happened again tonight, man. And that could have been detrimental, man, because the way Dallas got flat in the fourth quarter, they could have easily came out flat after halftime. And they were only up by, like, I think 14 points at halftime or 15 or something like that. They could have came out flat because you see that happen a lot in, like, all types of sports. Like, I remember, I think it was the Super Bowl in, like, 2012 or something like that. It was Ravens, 49ers. There was such a long delay after halftime. The halftime show was already super long, but then the lights went out. And then all of a sudden it's like the Ravens had a big lead and then the 49ers started coming back. Because it usually favors the team that is up because you're playing so good, you're playing so free, and then a big delay happens, you lose all your momentum. But Dallas came out in the second half and they played even better than they did in the first half. That's how they built the 29-point lead. Got to give my shout outs because I usually always do to the winning team, guys that play really well. Spencer Dinwiddie, really good off the bench. He had a stretch in the third quarter where he could not miss. Dorian Finney-Smith was shooting the ball very well. Reggie Bullock, who I was dogging the other night because he went 0 for 10, played really well tonight. I think I don't know if he hit 6 threes, but he had 6 field goals, 18 points. Maxi Kleber played a lot better too. And Dallas has another chance, and Luka almost had a triple-double. But we know Luka usually always shows up. We know Luka always shows up, but I'll be interested to see if maybe they can get another game. Make this somewhat of a series. Just make it a little interesting. We'll see, though. Warriors will probably close it out in 5. That's just the type of stuff that they do. Going back to San Francisco, too. It's going to be a tall task. Luka said in the post-game interview, he's like, it's going to be tough. But all you have to do is get one game. Take it one game at a time. So we'll see what happens. Let's get into the All-NBA teams, though. Because I think that's the more interesting discussion. Because I've been seeing some dialogue about mainly first team. And, well, actually all the teams for real. I actually see the 15 players that got on. And I had them in a similar order. In fact, yeah, I can't pull mine up because my iPad's dead. But I think the only thing I had different, when I made mine, I wanted to put Embiid and Jokic on the first team because they were basically the top 2 MVP candidates all season. And the ballots go as follows. First team, guards is Booker, Luka. Forwards, Giannis, and Tatum. Shout out to Tatum for making it. And then Jokic is the center, MVP, obviously. He's going to make first team, or he should. It'd be crazy if he didn't. I see a lot of people saying Book shouldn't be first team, which is just weird. I think that's like playoff bias coming into effect. People have to remember this is a regular season award. It's a regular season award, or accolade, or nod, accomplishment, whatever you want to call it. And Book was one of the best 2 guards in the regular season this season. I would say that. Given the fact that John Morant missed so many games, Steph Curry missed so many games, he was one of the best 2 guards in the regular season. Yeah, and he was on the best team in basketball. I don't care what. We saw how it ended in the playoffs, but during the regular season, they were the best team in basketball by far. It wasn't even close. So Booker is a first team All-NBA player this season. Yeah, Luka. I think Luka was pretty obvious. I don't see a world where Luka doesn't make first team this season. I don't really see a world where Jokic wasn't a first team player. There was just a possibility though because Embiid and Jokic are both centers. But I think, given the fact that Jokic was pretty much like the consensus MVP, there probably wasn't much of a chance. So shout out to him. I think Giannis, I don't know if he was unanimous, probably should be. And I was surprised Tatum made it. I really was. I don't know. I just thought maybe there would be a chance that he wasn't going to make first team. Not saying I would be mad if he didn't make first team. I'm just glad he's an All-NBA player at all because he didn't make it last year. And he lost a lot of money because of it. And I think Book and Luka, or Book and somebody, are eligible for a big extension. Like 200 M's over 4 years, which is a lot of money. That's over $50 million. Shout out to them. Go get your bag, young fellas. Go get your bag. Second team, Steph, John Morant are the guards. DeMar DeRozan, shout out to him. KD, and then Embiid at center. My only gripe, not even a gripe, the only way you could switch this at all is if maybe you drop KD down to third team and boost LeBron up. They played about the same amount of games. LeBron's season was pretty incredible. I think the only difference, and I think this is why KD's second team, is just team success. KD was on the playoff team. LeBron was not. I think that's the only difference. All NBA usually rewards winning. It usually does. So that's why I think, like, me personally, in my opinion, I had Trae Young on second team when I first made my ballots months ago. But I'm not mad at Steph or Ja being ahead of him because their teams were second and third in the Western Conference. Trae Young was an 8 seed. So I'm not mad at that at all. Shout out to DeMar, though. I like seeing this guy, like, kind of not even resurrect his career, but just, like, you know, get a second wind almost. Like, you know, he's been very good the last couple of years. Used to be like an all-star. I think he might have been all-NBA before. But now it's like, yeah, I'm all-NBA second team, 28 points per game, and brought the Bulls back to the playoffs. Shout out to DeMar. And, yeah, I mentioned Embiid. It sucks that he couldn't be a first-team player, but playing at one of the most stacked positions in basketball, you know, maybe, potentially. Yeah, I would say center and point guard is probably like the two most stacked positions because there's a lot of point guards that probably had cases but didn't even get any kind of consideration. Look at third team. CP, Trae Young, Karl Anthony Towns at the center, LeBron, and Pascal Siakam. I love seeing Pascal on here. Wasn't an all-star, but he is an all-NBA player. I think if he played the early portion of the season, he would have been an all-star too. Shout out to him because this is somebody that was all-NBA, I think, second team a couple years ago. And then last year, the Raptors just had a weird season in general. I just realized yesterday that they only won 25 or 27 games last year, which is just insane for a team that's been consistently good for like the last decade. They only won 27 games last year. Good to see Pascal back, man. Love to see it. I think the Raptors moving forward is going to be a fun team. They already are. Trae Young, I like seeing him make it. You can argue, like, individually, he was one of the top 3 guards this season. But I just think the lack of team success held him back from being, like, a first-team caliber dude. It could have been, like, him and Luka if his team was better. You know, the team success just wasn't there. They dug themselves a hole once again. So, yeah. Hopefully they get the team success down because I think Trae Young is an MVP caliber player. If you've been around the channel since the beginning of the season, you might remember I had him in my top 3. I thought he was going to have an MVP caliber season. I think he did individually, but just the team success did not reflect that. So, yeah, moving forward, I'm excited for Trae Young. We'll see what kind of – I hope they just make some, like, needed moves, man. Get some extra shot creators, some extra ball handlers just to help Trae Young out on the offensive side of the floor. Braun, we know what kind of a season he had. He missed a good amount of time, but he still averaged 30 points a game at 37 years old. Incredible. I don't even think I have to speak on that too much more. Cat made it. Shout out to him. Timberwolves in the playoffs. They deserved an All-NBA player. And then Chris Paul. When I made my All-NBA team, I didn't have Chris Paul on there. But when I look back on it, I was kind of dumb for that because they were the best team in basketball. And CP, maybe his counting numbers don't speak All-NBA, but it's still pretty good numbers. I think 14 and 10 assists. Still very good numbers. I think I just wanted to give Donovan Mitchell a nod because he's never made an All-NBA team. And I just think that's kind of crazy because this is somebody that's consistently been the best player on a really good team. But All-NBA doesn't care about that. Some guys that got left off. The best team in the Eastern Conference did not get a single player on All-NBA. Jimmy Butler did not make it. Bam obviously did not make it because there's only 3 center spots. It's tough. It's tough out here, man. I know Heat fans are going to be probably pissed about that. I can see why. Because you're the best team in the Eastern Conference. You're in the Eastern Conference Finals, so it's not like that's a fluke. You don't get a single All-NBA player. That's tough. That is tough. It is, but, you know, it's just a regular season accolade. And Jimmy's somebody that doesn't even, like, take the regular season. You see he turns his game up in the playoffs. Hopefully he's healthy for tomorrow. And I say that as a Celtics fan because I just want to see a good game where the Celtics win, obviously, but I just want to see a good game as well. I hate seeing people injured, but that's the All-NBA teams, man. I can't really think of anybody else that really got, like, snubbed. They had 2 Heat players. Donovan Mitchell are, like, the first ones to come to mind. Paul George didn't play enough games. That's really it. Like, there's not really a bunch of, like, names that is like, oh, he didn't make All-NBA. Like, there's probably some, like, fringe guys that's like, they maybe had an outside shot, maybe. But I don't even think that. Like, it would have been cool to see a Darius Garland or DeJounte make it, but they're probably not even the next guard up. That's the craziest thing about it. It's stacked in the NBA, man. But shout out to these 15 guys for being all NBA players, because that's a pretty big feat, man. My only thing about all NBA, I hate how it controls how much money a guy can get. You know, how you gonna tell like Jason Tatum last year that he's not worth 200 M's or however much? I think people in this draft class, like some other guys in this draft class who were up for extensions last year, they got that. I think Luka and Trey got that. They were all NBA players, but Tatum didn't get it because he didn't make all NBA last year. Like, how you gonna tell somebody you're not worth this amount of money because some media members, and I'm a media member, but I don't have a vote, obviously. Some media members said you're not one of the best 15 players in basketball. Kind of bogus. I hope they change that, because I just think you're taking money out of a guy's pockets that's worthy. Well, if that team thinks he's worthy of that money, he should get that money. I don't know. That's my only thing about it. Other than that, I don't have any really disagreements. I don't think there's any big time snubs. So people arguing about it on social media, they just want to argue. This is probably some of the better all NBA teams that I've seen in a long time. But yeah, that's all I got to say. This was a longer video than I anticipated, because that game was just more weird than anything, and it's probably not going to be a series that's going to go past 5 games, to be honest. Leave a like, subscribe. Didn't say that at the beginning, but do that now if you made it this far. And I'll probably catch y'all tomorrow after Heat Celtics. Peace.